Hi, and welcome to what's fast becoming the Shineflug channel. So, I wasn't expecting to do, when I did the FM2 studio shot on the Cambo demonstrating plane of focus, never thought how involved actually lens movements might become. Obviously, it's an extensive subject. There's been books written on it, so we could go on forever. I literally could just become this channel just on this alone. But what I realised I said in the previous two episodes was that you could also buy tilt shift lenses for a 35mm body, which I decided, I thought an episode on that would be quite good, I think, to show people a 35mm tilt shift lens. And I purchased this Canon TSC 24mm lens, f3.5. Superb lens, got it second hand, in immaculate condition with the box and everything. I think it was just over £400, £450, something like that. And it really is a great optic. Obviously, the manufacturers would make fantastic quality optics for their tilt shift lenses, so it's going to be a fantastic 24mm lens anyway, with the addition of the tilt and the shift. And the benefits of having a tilt shift lens are actually, again, extensive, because you can do so much in camera. Now, obviously the keystoning is very successfully resolved now in Photoshop or Lightroom, Capture One, whatever. You can rectify that easily and it's accurate and it's perfect. But it's obviously another step in the process. And as we found out with the focus stacking, which took an absolute age to do, it's easier just to quickly resolve it in camera. And less time spent in front of the computer, and more time spent out taking photographs in nice locations like this. We're in Giclée Cemetery today in Cardiff, which I've used before in a previous episode. And the thing about it is that you can resolve the keystoning using the shift lens. And the other added benefit of the shift lens is the fact that you can also, this is a Canon EOS 5 DSR, 50 megapixels, fantastic camera, wonderful piece of kit. You can then stack the two or three shifts and get a high resolution image. And when you're setting it up anyway, if you're photographing a building, for instance, and you want to prevent that keystoning, you're also resolving the keystoning at the same time. So you're getting a high resolution image, which you can then comp in quickly in post, put those images together, and you also resolve the keystoning at the same time. So you're getting because also I think, I've read that the Hasselblad 100C, for instance, camera, is two Sony sensors stitched together. The Sony A7R5 sensors, I believe, possibly, though that is a 60 megapixel camera, so maybe it's the A1, or I'm not too sure. But anyway, apparently Sony make the chips, and they put two of these sensors together to bring you the 100 megapixels. So you can actually achieve that with your current kit by the addition of a tilt shift lens. Now, Canon make this 24mm tilt shift, TSE, and they also do a 17mm, which is ultra wide, obviously, and which is fantastic camera. But I'm not too sure why you might want the tilt shift on that wide angle lens anyway, but you may well do. But they also make a 45mm, I think it's 45mm TSE lens, and they definitely make a 90mm TSE lens. Both those lenses, superb lenses. And again, you can pick them up fairly cheaply second-hand. So you get an extensive kit of lenses, optically brilliant, with the addition of the tilt and the shift. And for instance, if you're using the 90mm for portrait work, you can use the tilt very effectively to get some really interesting shallow depth of field effects. But but they're not. It's not really shallow depth of field. You're just shifting the field of focus, like we've discussed before. So you could get some interesting portraits. And again, this is another another episode idea, I suppose, if I can get my hands on a 90mm tilt shift. But you could do some really interesting work with that on portraits. So again, it's the addition of a tilt shift lens to your kit bag, I think, is really quite beneficial, and would be, and it is a great addition. So today, so we're at Giclée Cemetery, and this is a lovely, beautiful building behind. It sort of fronts the entrance to the cemetery, and so we're going to do some shots here today. I'm going to convert. I've also been around other churches as well. I went to Landor Cathedral and a few other churches in mid Wales, just with the tilt shift lens. It was a lovely journey. It's beautiful weather at the moment, and did some shots. So I'll show you those shots now. I've converted them to black and white because they look nice in black and white, so that's what I've done. Obviously, a shot in colour on the 5DSR, but I shot these I converted them to black and white, and just show you what you can achieve with the tilt shift. And then we'll get back in the studio, do some prints as always, but there might be more prints than two this time because obviously you've done more images. But and we'll have a review and see what the benefits are, and then hopefully you have more questions. We've been getting great questions and great comments, so thank you for that, as I always do appreciate it. And you always come up with new ideas for for episodes, so that's all brilliant as well, because sometimes you think, what am I going to talk about today? But yeah, it's going to be fun. So let's get around, have a look at some shots around here, and then we'll get back in the studio and I'll see you there. Well, had an enjoyable day doing these shots. This is a church in Llanfair Cilgedin, and sort of Usquay, sort of Monmouth, that area, I suppose. Really interesting church. Apparently has some murals on the wall, and apparently you can get the key to the church and go and have a visit, because they're apparently really interesting murals. So I might do that one day. But that was that church that I thought was really interesting. And this was a shot on the 5DSR with the 24mm tilt shift lens, which we're discussing. And also, the reason I've brought the speed light in for the Canon is because on this shot, this headstone which is a really interestingly designed headstone, was in shade, and so I wanted to sort of replicate that side sunlight coming in. So I put some fill-in flash on that just to bring it out, because I thought the composition was quite interesting. And then this one, this place is again Usk Way, this church, and again. On this particular shot, I've used the speed light to light this headstone and the church in the background. But the thing about the the Canon, the 24mm tilt shift lens, is that there's rising fronts on both these shots, and so I've used the shift. So I'm going to show you this on the camera. So you have here, you can see the markings where the shift lens is, where you and so if I just go into that a second, and you can see how the lens rises from center or falls from center. And in the case we just the churches we've just been to, it's a rising front. So effectively what happens is, instead of you pointing the camera up and you get the keystone on this shot, you use a rising front, but the actual light still passes through at an angle, and that's how you're getting not getting converging lines, because the camera is still level, and you'd obviously use a tripod for this because you need to get the camera nice and level, and use the rising front. Now, the other interesting thing, which I hadn't mentioned on the video with this lens, is there's if I show you again here, there's a little silver switch here. So you can see that silver switch there. If you press it, you can actually rotate the lens, and that allows you then to get a shift horizontally rather than vertically. So again, you could then shift the lens that way, or you can shift the lens that way, and which is a really useful thing to be able to do. And also you can then rotate it at an angle as well, so you can actually have it, if I just show you here, you can have it so that the actual lens is on an angle, and you can shift in a different perspective. And then obviously you have the tilt here, so you can take the tilt lens either way, and again, using that silver switch, you can rotate the lens the other way, and then you can have a swing in a different angle to the lens. So really useful piece of kit. And with this particular shot, and also the Llandaff Cathedral, they're stitched files. So I've used the shift to stop the conversion, the keystoning, and the camera's level, and I've used the shift to stitch two, and in this case, actually three sections together, which gives you a very high resolution file, of course, as I mentioned in previously. So it gives you great versatility in the field. You can get things right in camera. It also opens up, you're seeing what you're getting. You're working with an image which you've seen on the back of the camera, or in my case, I was tethered to my iPad, which I presume you must have noticed, into Capture One. So I was able to see the live image on the screen, and I was able to shift the lens up and down and see the image on the back on the iPad, and then shoot to the iPad, which is a really useful thing to be able to do. And you can preview stuff. You can preview. I was able to preview the black and white conversion and that sort of stuff on location. So that works really well. And obviously the Canon, it's a manual focus lens, obviously. So you have a manual focus. All tilt shift lenses are manual. They're not autofocus, be it Nikon, be it Canon, whatever. They're always going to be manual focuses. And so obviously then it works really well on the film camera. This is autofocus Canon, but it makes no difference. It still works really well with this. and so you can work on film with this lens as well. So it allows you great versatility to be able to do stuff. And this image here is a straightforward rise. So I'd level the camera on the tripod and then literally shifted. It's a single capture, not stitched. That's exactly what I captured in camera, and obviously did the black and white conversion. But this image is just a rising front, basically. So that works really, really well. I think hopefully I've demonstrated the reasons why, and the useful reasons why you'd buy a tilt shift lens. I think the one thing that comes out of this particular episode is the fact that you can do the stitch, so you can get really high resolution files as well, which is just useful in all use cases. You can also get some really interesting panoramics, because you could actually stay vertically and get a nice panorama. So you could actually then stitch, like the essential shot, then a shift to the right and a shift to the left, and you stitch those together to get a nice panoramic image, which would be interesting as well. So great versatility out of a tilt shift lens, and I think I will try and get hold of a 90mm, and we'll give that portrait idea a go as well, with tilting the lens and messing about with focus and playing the focus in portraiture, which could be quite interesting. So hopefully you've gained something out of this particular episode. Again, it's a continuation of the Scheinflug rules, and it's all relevant, it all works together. And hopefully you'll have some questions. Any questions, please put them down below. I always reply. And thank you for the new subscribers. Really appreciate that. And it's great fun to get new people asking questions. So hopefully this is as I said, it's a collaborative space where we can chat together. And also, the other thing is, I had some great comments from people, and they're really, really involved comments. And you've gone to so much trouble to post them, so thank you so much. And hopefully other people who come to the channel can look at your comments and gain even more knowledge. There are obviously people that know a lot more than me, and that is fantastic to learn all the time. There's loads to actually talk about in upcoming episodes, and also I've managed to get hold of a Sign RP2, which is going to be a great episode, because my colleague Dave Williams, a great photographer, he mentioned about the backswing and tilt, and how we can play about with product photography in the studio and get some really interesting perspectives on that. So there's a lot coming up. I've got to put a lot of effort into getting the episodes together. So, but as I said, in the meantime, please post your comments below, and please like and subscribe, which is fantastic. And I'll see you on the next episode. So in the meantime, have a good week, and cheerio.